morning, everybody. Morning. I hope we're ready for some math. We're going to learn some math this morning. Good morning. See, now you can see me. Just give us a few minutes. While I make some changes here. Yes, good morning. I hope everybody had a nice evening. Fix some of the yeah. There we go. That should stop now. Get the heat to go away. Good morning. There we go. That should stop now. Heat to go away. And we'll fix some stuff here. Still learning some of the new toys. Just trying to make sure that everybody can hear me and hear me well, and I don't have to talk over the air conditioning and the heat and all of that. Well, not air conditioning, it's heat. So. Oh, I won't freeze. Thank you, Miss Ann. I'm pretty warm right this second, so I'm good to go. All right, let's get started because I know you all want to get your weekend started. Hopefully you have fun stuff planned here. I'm actually going to be, after this, I'm going to be teaching more AccuQuilting cubes to my AccuQuilters block of the month or quilt of the month or section of the month. For our Beyond the Cube project. So all about cubes and AccuQuilt today. So let's get started. So the first thing, as with anything, is what is a cube? Do you have any idea what a cube is? So in the world of AccuQuilt, that cube is basically a group of dies that have been put together that are the most common shapes that we use in the quilt world. Okay, so it's kind of like there are 8 puzzle pieces that we can put together. And if you've ever done like a tanagram, that's where you take those shapes, I think it's 8 shapes that you kind of put together, and you can create hundreds and hundreds of images. So it's kind of like that concept. There are 3 different types of cubes. We have a cube that we call a mix and match that has 8 pieces in it. We have a companion, and then we have 2 companion cubes, okay? The companion cubes, there is one that focuses on angles and one that focuses on the corners, okay? And then they come in 5 different sizes. So all of the cubes, mix and match, companion, and corners, all come in 5 different sizes. And you can, pick and choose and use the ones that most likely fit the size quilt blocks and things that you use most often. And we're going to determine and talk about how to look at the math of it. The cube sizes all refer back to a finished size. So when you look at a 6-inch cube, we're looking at creating blocks that finish at 6 inches. So we have a 6, an 8, a 9, a 10, and a 12, okay, cube. And then again, each one of them comes with the companions, okay? So first, let's take a look at a mix and match, okay? This is gonna really probably be the first cube that you purchase. And if you purchased a Ready, Set, Go bundle, you have an 8-inch mix and match that comes with your machine. Again, they're the most common 8 shapes that you could use to put quilt blocks together, okay? Or quilt block units, so half square triangles, quarter square triangles, flying geese, things along that lines. So you have a square, and then you have a smaller square. So I call that the 4-patch square. So it would take 4 number 2s to make 1 number 1 square, okay? And then we have a half square triangle, which is shape number 3. Shape number 4 is a quarter square triangle. Shape 5 is going to be a half square triangle. It's a smaller half square triangle. It's also, we use it for flying geese, things along that lines. 6 is a square on point. 7 is a parallelogram, and 8 is a rectangle, okay? And all of those pieces go together and can be used to create multiple quilt blocks, okay? And you will start to, as you get into using your cube or things along that lines, you'll start to look at quilt blocks in a manner of, okay, I can see that particular shape. Oh, that's how I can do this. So the next thing to look at is math, okay? And I know we all hate math. Promise it's not like new style math for those of you that have been monitoring homeschool education, virtual education. Very basic math, okay? So cube math is based on a 4-patch. So in an 8-inch cube, okay, the 4-patch, okay, so that's the big square. So shape number 1 is always going to be the biggest square, okay? And if we sewed them together, 2 across and 2 down, that's going to give us a 8-inch square, okay? And so therefore, that square, number 1 there, is going to have to be a 4.5-inch square. So if we cut it at 4.5 and we sewed it together and then sewed it into, it would be an 8.5-inch square. And then when we sewed it into the quilt, it would be 8-inch finished, okay? So you have to think of it, this is not an 8-inch cube, it's not based on what we call a 3x3 grid, okay? I just call it 4-patch math, okay? So it's only based on 2 squares across and 2 squares down. And so if we look at shape number 2, which is what I call the 4-patch square, it would take 4 of those, okay, to make 1 shape number 1, okay? And so if we took that 4.5-inch square, right, and we divided it in half, okay, and then in half again, that is going to be a 2.5-inch square. So it takes 4 2.5-inch squares to equal 1 4.5-inch square. And I do a lot of this, and you can kind of see it down here in paper, and I'll show this to you if you're not sure, you know, if things match and math is just not your forte, and you just, I've already overwhelmed you and glazed your eyes over here this morning. Don't worry, it's okay. But, you know, we don't actually, in the world of quilting, we don't do a lot of quilt blocks that are on what we call a 2x2 grid. So 2x2 grid is 2 blocks across and 2 blocks down. We do a lot more on 3x3 grids and 4x4 grids, okay? And nobody says that you can only make a 4x4 grid with a cube, okay? It's only that way to figure out math. So a 4-patch in an 8-inch cube is going to give you an 8-inch square. But a 9-patch with an 8-inch cube is going to give you what size square? Okay, so we can keep adding across. So that's going to give you a 12-inch square. And that is the most common size square in the quilt block library, is going to be a 12-inch square. Okay, and we could even go more. We could go to what we call a 4x4 grid or a 16 patch with an 8-inch cube, and that would give you a 16-inch square. Okay, so you're just adding things across more than anything. Okay, and you just, if you look at it in terms of looking at shape number 1 in a cube, and that, using that as your base, that is going to help figure out your math, okay, in terms of, especially if you're looking at a quilt block and you're trying to convert it to what you would use for AccuQuilt. Look at what would be a solid square in that quilt block and look at what they have you cut it at, and that will usually help send you in the direction of what size cube you need to use. You could also look at the finished size of the square and be like, okay, it's a 9-inch finished square, and I can see it's on a 3 grid and a 3 grid block. Okay, so if it's 9 inches finished and it's on a 3x3 grid, I bet you it's probably a 6-inch cube. Okay, because in a 6-inch cube, the biggest square or shape number 1 in a 6-inch cube is 3 inches finished. Okay, so just take a moment, graph out the quilt block, look at what some of the cutting measurements and things that are being asked for in the pattern and the finished size of the block, and that will help get you to figuring out what cube or shapes you need to use. Okay, so for example, these 2 blocks right here, full of mix and match cube shapes. Okay, could be made with an 8-inch cube, could be made with a 12-inch cube, doesn't matter. The shapes are the same in all of the cubes, the sizes of them just differ. Okay, so with that being said, here is what we have in terms of shapes. Now you have shape number 1 here in the middle. You have a flying geese unit here that is made up of 2. You could also make this out of 2 half square triangles and have a seam down the middle. Okay, and then you have the solid smaller square in the corner, and then the other block here is going to give you the solid square in the corner, and then you've got a 4 square triangle in the middle. So, looking at it in those basic 8 shapes is going to help. So Miss Joanne asks, is there a cube that will do 3x3 and give you a 10-inch square? No. Okay, because the math is not divisible, it's not a typical shape that you can do. So if you wanted a 10-inch square, that's really going to be a little bit of an odd math, because you'd have to take, so if we took a 10-inch square and we divided it by 3, that makes each square 3 1/3 finished. And then when you add seam allowance, it's like 3 7/8. So the mathematics don't work as evenly. We do have a 10-inch cube that is based on a 5-inch square, okay? But in a 3x3 grid, that's going to give you a 15-inch square. The 6-inch cube would give you a 9-inch square. That's going to be your closest. That's there. So yeah. So let's look at companions, because companions are designed to expand your quilt blocks. okay, and the options that you have. So you can add almost double the amount of blocks that you'd be able to do with a companion cube. So first up is corners here. The companion cubes are only 4 shapes, okay? They're not 8, they're little mini cubes. And the corner gives you the chisel, the signature block, the bow tie, okay? And it also gives you the small half square triangle that matches that bow tie, okay? That's in it. So this is going to give you the autograph block, or the signature die is perfect if you need to make a signature quilt for a family gathering or something like that. Quickly cut a bunch of number 10s and cut the number 5 rectangles that, number 5 triangles that coordinate with it, and you got a square, okay? And the bigger you go, the bigger that rectangle is going to be. But in an 8-inch square, this is the autograph, okay? And you basically are going to, this is the number 5, and this is number 10. That would go together, okay? Now, let's take a look. This here is additional shapes. A quilt block that uses, can you see the shapes? Can you see the cubes? So shape number 9, that's a chisel, okay? And then you have the coordinating half square triangle, which I forgot to mark there, number 5. And then you have number 7, which is the parallelogram. And you have the 2 triangles, again, that are number 5 that coordinate with those particular shapes. So a very basic block here uses basically 3 different shapes out of your cube, uses a mix and match and a companion corner. Next up is going to be angles. So your companion angles are going to add 4 more shapes that give you angled blocks, okay? So you're going to get your triangle and a square. You're going to get the center and the side. So 13 and 14 go together, okay? So that is also known in the industry as the peaky and spike block, okay, or unit. You also have the kite. So, and then the kite, the sides of the kite are also number 14, okay? And then number 16 is going to be your trapezoid. And then you'd have your coordinating triangle from your mix and match that would finish that particular shape off into a triangle, okay? Same thing here. Here we are looking at a square. Basically the center of this square is a 3 across and 3 down grid that is then bordered, okay, around the outside edge with some additional pieces. Here's your 13 and 14. This is shape number 1. You've got, this would be shape number 2, okay. Flying geese is shape 4 and 5, okay. Or this could be half square triangles if you wanted a seam down the middle. If you're not a fan of flying geese, of making them as whole units, you could easily make them as 2 half square triangle units. Okay, if you have a question, please don't hesitate to ask me for a question to answer. So let's take a look at if you're trying to figure things out, okay? So I have a tendency to take my cubes and I cut my cubes out. I cut the shapes of my cubes out with some cardstock, okay? Because you know you can cut on your AccuQuilt, you can cut more than just cotton, okay? I cut paper with it. And this just gives me an idea, you know, if you're not like, I have no idea what size triangle. This is shape number 1. And, you know, you can be like, oh, nope, that's not the triangle that I need to go there. You know, up there's the triangle that I need. Okay, and then I would know that this would be what I needed to do, right sides together, and then sew 1/4 inch. Okay, and so I do a lot of playing with paper. This would be your half square triangle that if we sewed this together, okay, we would have our half square triangle. We could sew these units, these triangles together for another size half square triangle. This is also the body of your flying geese. And then this is the triangle that makes the wings of the geese. Okay, this is your square on point. Okay, you're like, well, that's not the triangle needed for there, and you know, that's not the triangle. So you can work with, it's actually this triangle, that you've got your 4 patches that you can play with. So I do a lot of this, okay, with paper, especially if I'm trying to figure out, okay, what shape do I need before I jump into my cutting, because you know, sometimes you have just enough fabric and you don't want to end up cutting everything out of triangle number 5, okay, when it should have been triangle number 4. Okay, so that, and you also have, you know, your rectangle, which the corner, you know, the corner of your rectangle would be shape number 2. Your parallelograms, those are, oh, let's flip that way. Okay, here's your parallelogram, and you have your squares that can go inside of it. It would be this one. That would be set in. Okay, and then again, we add, for example, here's your corners. And so this is that signature block that would then finish on each side with that triangle. So this is triangle number 5. Okay, that gets sewn together, and this would create this particular block. So if I use my engineered corners, I could line things up, and that's what it would look like. Your chisel. Okay, corner to your chisel. And then you have the bow tie, okay, which is an itty bitty 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 tiny triangle that would go right there, and then you could sometimes it's just fun to sit and play with paper. Create yourself a 4 patch with this little fold back corner. Okay. And then that's your corner, and then your companion angle set. You have that trapezoid, and with that comes, that is going to give you a triangle that would match the solid shape number 2 that was from the mix and match. Okay, and then you get also, there's your triangle and a square, and then you have your corners for your triangle and a square. Yes, I would definitely label these with the numbers, the numbers, so you would know what they are. And then you can lay them right sides together. The nice engineered corners tell you exactly where they need to line up. And then your kite block. That's backwards. Okay. Would give you something along that lines. So it's fun to sit and lay out paper, you know, design things along that lines in the quilt. It just kind of helps you figure out what shapes go together. Now, then we talk about like an 8 and a 12-inch cube could work together, okay, because they are divisible by each other, right? And so you can use those together because an 8-inch cube is going to give you, you know, 4.5, and then you can make some bigger 12-inch blocks and things. So projects don't have to be just one cube. They could be 2 different size cubes that you're using. I can tell you, let's see, let me figure out here. Let's turn me off, turn that off. 1 second. If you go this right here, this chart is going to be your best friend. Okay, and I'll show you where to find this chart at. But this chart is going to help you know exactly what size squares and things are. Okay, so you could take this chart. This is the chart for the mix and match set. It has all 5 sizes in it, and you could go down and be like, okay, the pattern is calling for this size square, and then you can go down and check the next half square triangle size and things along that lines. And so this chart is going to be probably your best friend. There are some examples in this little brochure that also show you different shapes and blocks that could be made with these shapes. There's also the chart for the corner unit and a chart for the angle unit. Okay, and then examples for them as well. And then there's lots of pictures and additional quilt blocks that you can make with those designs. Okay, so you can, if you don't already have one of these brochures, okay, because some of you may have attended an event when we were allowed to have live events in previous years. I did load it, so if you go to our homepage, go over to the YouTube tab, and then scroll on down to the tab, the header that says, what is a cube? The link to my presentation is there, so you can download that if you want to have the slides. You can also click right here, and this is the brochure. This is that chart, okay? That will give you sizes that you can use to reference back to, and then later I will put the link up to the video. That's there as well, okay? And just so in case people don't realize, this is what a cube comes in, okay? Comes in a nice box. They're labeled on the end that show you what it is, and so this companion, let me pull it out here. They all have their own pocket, okay, in this little fold-up binder thing. And then inside of each pocket, there is a pattern for a block that uses that shape. Cutting instructions and everything are there as well, and assembly. You also get, with each cube, you also get a 6-inch mat, okay, that covers the die, okay. You get another pattern booklet, okay, with more block options, how to instructions, what you need to cut, sizes and things. And then there's also a DVD for getting started if you're more of a watch and learn versus a read and learn person. And then they all just fold right back up and store nice and neat together inside their box. Okay, so I know, you know, for a lot of people, I just lost my train of thought. Oh, you know, you don't have to buy a ton of different dies in order to make quilt blocks with AccuQuilt, okay? You can do a lot of things with purchasing just the cube and the cubes and the companions for the cubes. So these quilts, a couple of quilts that I pulled from AccuQuilt's project site here, is all done with cubes. Okay, there's no extra dies, there's no additional dies needed. It is all done with cubes. Okay, can you spot the shapes? You won't, if you get comfortable using your cube, you will very quickly be able to break down a quilt without needing to, let me make me smaller so you can see. You know, this is that triangle and a square, okay, unit, and then you got a 4-patch, solid square, and the rectangle, okay? So this is a solid square, a rectangle, a small square, rectangle, big square, rectangle, okay? So it's standard, and then you have a basically 4 triangle and a square blocks together. This is that trapezoid and a triangle. Okay, this is that bow tie block. Okay, half square triangle, maybe a chisel there, quarter square triangle. This is Starry Path. So Starry Path is going to use pretty much just the angles companion. More than anything, it's the triangle and a square, and then the trapezoid, and then you will need the mix and match for the one triangle at the top. Okay, this here's the kite block. Okay, that's there, and this one actually uses 2 size cubes. Okay, because you'll be like, well, that's a kite, and so is this, but these are 2 different size cubes. Okay, so that's like using an 8-inch cube and a 12-inch cube. Okay, so nothing says that it has to be one size cube. Break out the paper pieces and sit down and play and see if things match up and coordinate, and then cut it out of scrap fabric if you want. That way you can play and sew things together and that type of thing. But this one's really pretty. Perfect example of don't have to just use one size cube. And then we have a cute little daisy. Okay, again, uses basically the signature block here in the corner with the triangle and then a solid square. Okay, and this is so quick and easy. Okay, quarter square triangles and there, and then you have in the blue one here, that center block is basically the trapezoid and a triangle twice sewn together, so it's a half square triangle. And around the outside edge we have flying geese, and that looks like the bow tie unit in the outside corner as well. So all of these projects came from AccuQuilt's website. If you don't know, so if you go to AccuQuilt.com and you can go to patterns, okay, and you can search patterns, you can go to cube corners, and then, like, for example, there's your 10-inch daisy, and just because it says 10-inch doesn't mean that you can't make this with a smaller cube. Okay, and then you can break it down to angles, and then you'll see there's our angle, there's another one done with the cube, there's another one done with the cube. Okay, so there are lots of free patterns for you to be able to download from inside there. And if you've never, yes, I don't want them, just leave me alone. If you've never tried the Go Quilt project section, that you can actually customize patterns, and there's additional projects inside of here. Let's see if I can go in. And so you can there are things that have been uploaded that you can assign colors to, and then it prints out. You can get instructions and things along that line. So that's also available at AccuQuilt's website. Okay. All right, and then I'm going to give you a little sneak. Starting March 11th, I'm going to let you know now, 11th through the 15th is just a few days, okay, long. You buy one, you get one 40% off. That applies to cubes and dies, okay? So you buy a cube and you can get a die 40% off. You buy one cube and you can get the other cube 40% off, okay? This is only from March 11th through March 15th, not before and not after, okay? If there are specific things that you want, please send me an email, okay? That way I can verify that I have them in stock. I know that we have a lot of things. Cubes are a little hung up at the moment, but they're just finally making their way back into the country. So we have limited things, but I will, if you purchase them through that time period, if they're not in stock, I'll still extend the offer and then pay for it, and then you will get them when they arrive. Okay? So, yes. Okay. Yeah. So, do I have any questions? Miss Laurie, it can. I mean, but if you only, but only if you wait to between March 11th and 15th to get it. And while I have you, your Main Street bench pillow kit is here. I didn't get a text message sent to you yesterday, but Miss Laurie, your kits are here. And if anybody else needs Main Street bench pillow from Kimberbell, they are in stock too. All right, well, that is what I have for you today. I hope that made understanding cubes a little bit easier, and maybe inspired you to break the cube out if you have it. We have been using cubes for the last couple of years. I have 2 block of the months that have been going, that are working on harmony, which is almost done. So let me grab that. But we convert, that pattern was not written for AccuQuilt. Let's see. Oh, too many. So let's make me bigger now. So these blocks were not written for AccuQuilt, but we converted them in block of the month to be AccuQuilt based. Okay. So these were all cut on a cube. Okay. And then we have the American Glory block of the month that is happening, that just started. Okay. We've also converted to cube. Okay. So we, looking at those blocks, I have converted those to cubes as well. Both of these block of the months are 9-inch finished blocks, so that we are using the 6-inch cube. Okay. For those 2 particular projects. All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. For those that are here today, go enjoy your garden guild here with the Kimberbell event. For those that are participating with me, if you have any questions, you know where to find me. And for my AccuQuilters, I'll see you at 10 in just a little bit. So thank you, everybody. I really appreciate it. And I hope that you have a wonderful weekend. Bye, everybody.